last session, we had considered the story of Eklavya, and we had seen how Eklavya was a very enlightened soul who was, for some reason, wanted to become an archer. Become an archer means he just wanted to become a good, what the karma yogi. All the Kshatriyas were really karma yogis, and they believed they were men of action, and he wanted to become another man of action. Now, enlightened soul will have little difficulty because what are the requirements of becoming a better human being or better soul or better karma yogi are that he should have control over his senses and a few other things, and which in any case he had as an enlightened being. So Eklavya had no difficulty, and very quickly he mastered the all the what they call the skill of the archer, as has been seen when he shot 7 arrows into the mouth of, stitching the mouth of the dog who came barking there. And it was this dog which went back to the Kuru princess. And Arjun, the moment he spotted it, he realized that there was an archer better than him. He went to Dronacharya, his guru, and told him there's an archer better than him, even though you had said that I'll be the best archer in the world. Guru Dronacharya, when he, along with all these, his disciples, his 105 princes, and his son Ashtama went there, he saw this Eklavya practicing before his statue. And then Guru, and when he saw his Guru coming there, Eklavya bent and touched his feet and expressed his happiness at the arrival of his Guru. Dronacharya, when he saw him, he immediately told him that, look, your education is already over. Now nothing is required. You have to just give the Gurudakshina. So he said, yes, please specify the Gurudakshina. And he said that, give me your right hand thumb. With the right hand thumb, immediately, he was an enlightened soul. He knew what it meant. It meant to him that he doesn't have to depend upon any external guru. He has already attained enlightenment, and that he is being bogged down by the external guru. So he immediately cut off the thumb, which means he cut off the guru, and he was set free. Now, this was the case with Eklavya. In a very short while, he has done it. Whereas Arjun, who was there practicing for months, he has not been able to do it anywhere near it. So what is it that they were teaching there in the gurukul? In the gurukul, they used to teach them primarily what they call brahmacharya, not only just knowledge of the Brahma, certainly which was there, but they taught him self-restraint, not just celibacy. Celibacy is one aspect of self-restraint, but self-restraint in the broadest, widest sense, which would include all the control over your sense organs and your senses. And once these are controlled, then you are able to prepare a ground for self-confidence. Arjun was the only person who could do that, and the reason was that once it happened that there, like even today, in most of these ashrams, etc., it's light off at 9 p.m. these days. Now remember, we have got electric lights, and those days there are no electric lights. There was just a diya or a small candle, or earthen lamp, which used to be lit. But all the students, especially, was expected to go to bed very early, and they had to get up very early at pre-dawn. Bhim, our friend, he used to be very hungry all the time, and unknown to anybody, he managed to smuggle some few eats for himself. And when the lights were off, he would gently, quietly eat away whatever he had stored, whatever he had managed to procure that evening. One day when Arjun was sleeping next to Bhim, he could hear some munching. So he asked, Bhaiya, what are you eating? He said, no, I don't make a noise. I'm feeling very hungry. He said, hungry is all right, but how can you eat at night? You can't see anything. He said, then he chuckled. He said, I don't have to see. My hand automatically knows where my mouth is. So he just puts whatever I have in my mouth, in my hand, it straight goes to my mouth. It doesn't go here and there. Arjun was a little surprised because when he started doing it, he found that it does every time go directly to his mouth. But he realized that with practice, it could be done. They said, if this applies to your food, why can't it apply to my bow and arrow and target? The next day, when the sessions were all over, Arjun on his own, he kept his target, the target board, and with his arrows, he started practicing in the evening. Then it became late evening. Then it became dark. But he continued, and Dronacharya didn't stop him. Nobody told him anything. He continued practicing, and of course, once it became really dark and he could see nothing, his arrows would also go here and there. They would not even reach the target board, much less the bullseye. But this Arjun would not give up, and he would continue. He would persist, and day after day he kept on trying this, and on his own he kept on trying until sometimes, occasionally, he would hit the board. Occasionally, he would come near the bullseye also, but very rarely he would strike at the bullseye. But he would not give up. He was of a different stuff. When after several months, Arjun seemed to be making no progress, then Dronacharya stepped out his uh, from from his house in the darkness, and then taught Arjun how to hold a virtual image of the target in his mind, and how to align that virtual target with his body and his bow in a virtual image, so that when he shoots there, he's able to get his target. And the same thing, Arjun did exactly that. And in the presence of the Guru, he managed to hit the bullseye. Arjun was, of course, very happy and pleased that at night he was able to get the bullseye, although it was more the effort of the Guru uh, than the disciple. But nevertheless, it gave Arjun it told him very in no uncertain terms that he will be able to strike a bullseye even in complete darkness. So after that, he continued to practice, and sure enough, after some time, he did manage to acquire that skill. Now, all these uh, on the other princes, it's not that they were keeping idle. There were lots of other subjects to study and other skills to be acquired, which they had all in that turn they were acquiring. When after some time, Dronacharya said that all these 505 princes, they have acquired whatever skill they could acquire and knowledge, and nothing more. If then it doesn't serve any purpose for them to be here. So he said that he requested the king that it is better that we call and ask all the princes to display what all they were required in the arena, in the stadium, main stadium of the city, where all the town people can come and watch their princes as they practice, or as they give a demonstration of what all they were required. So it was a big day, and all the 105 princes were there, and all the stands in the stadium were all filled with spectators, townsfolk. Dronacharya, after the initial prayers and initial formalities were over, Dronacharya then called upon uh, Yudhishthir, the eldest of the lot, and said, "You give a demonstration of whatever you think you acquired." So our Yudhishthir, he took a sword, and with the sword, he started showing his skill. Of course, he was on his own; nobody else was there. But he started showing his skill with how he kept on wielding parry, thrust, etc., etc. And everybody was quite delighted and thrilled, and they clapped. Thereafter, Dronacharya called Duryodhan, because he and Bhim were of the same age, but he gave the preference to Duryodhan. Duryodhan came there. He said he would like to show his skill with the mace. So with that mace, he kept on wielding the mace as he would in a mock battle, and people were very happy with his performance too. Thereafter, Dronacharya invited Bhim. Bhim came over, and he also said that I'll use the mace. And then he also gave a very good demonstration. Somehow it happened that there was a demand from this side that both the Duryodhan and Bhim, they together give a demonstration how they would fight with each other. So they started Together they came on the arena and they started fighting. Of course, it was only a mock battle initially, but gradually the the blows, they started getting heavier and heavier. And what was initially a mock battle started turning into a real battle. Then the people were a little alarmed, they became tense. Dronacharya also could see what was happening. So he sent his son Ashwatthama and told them to disengage the two combatants because that's not what was intended. It was only supposed to be mock battle. Ashwatthama disengaged them, and then the proceedings commenced with Nakul coming and giving his demonstration with a spear and how he could, on a horseback also, he could pierce a stick or something which was lying on the floor even though the horse was galloping at full speed. And other such demonstration. In fact, all the 105 princes were there. They gave some 104 of them. They gave some demonstration of their with the weapon which they were very familiar with or they preferred. When this was over, then finally Dronacharya called Arjun. Arjun had a wooden boar placed on the on a place in the center of the arena, and with 5 arrows, he very quickly, one after the other, he shot and sealed the lips of that wooden boar. If you recall, uh, Eklavya had done precisely that on a live dog with 7 arrows. Arjun took 5 arrows and he sealed the lips, but 5 arrows was good enough. The five, and thereafter, Arjun took out one of his arrows and shot in the sky, and the whole sky was lit up with a large flame. There was a big fire in the sky. Arjun took out a second arrow and shot in the sky, and immediately there happened to be then there formed heavy rain-laden, dark rain-laden cloud. He took a third arrow and he shot at that cloud, and the rain started pouring from there, and it extinguished the fire which was there in the sky. Then with another arrow, he uh, shot in this, which is shot in the sky. He the wind started blowing, and it blew the smoke and the fire and all the other residual things aside. And people were really thrilled with this kind of demonstration. And now all this is a little bit of a metaphor. As you can see, the important thing was that when the other princes were there, they all chose to show the skill that they had acquired in fighting. And they'd taken the skill they had acquired primarily in fighting, but that was not what Dronacharya had said. Dronacharya said, whatever skills and knowledge that you acquired, that you must show there. But Yudhishthira started, then Duryodhan, then Bhim, and all others took some weapon. So essentially, uh, they were all driven by their ego. They were all in a competitive spirit, and they were all driven by their egos. All the 104 of them, except Arjun. Arjun showed them what he had acquired. He had acquired the skill to master his five senses, all his five senses, and with that he had reached a level where he could master the five elements also. And the master of the five elements he had demonstrated by shooting an arrow and first creating a fire, then creating a thundercloud, then getting the thundercloud to rain, and finally the wind to blow away. So it's shown that he had mastered fire, he had mastered water, he had mastered air, and the other two, although he didn't demonstrate, but it's very evident that he had mastered those also. The five elements: the sky and uh, the earth. All those five elements he had mastered. Now, uh, these 104 princes were there primarily who are showing off their boasting and they're competing and fighting. They're like these days that when we graduate and we get into the real world, all that we do is compete from beginning to end. But that is not what was expected those days. What was expected was that you be a man of good character, that you should be able to control yourself, and that is what was expected out of them. Now, if you recall, but Arjuna had shown that in an earlier episode, I had mentioned about the kind of test that used to be given about that bird being knocked down from the sky, from the
So
tree.
sorry.
That showed focus. That showed that they were all focused, and then other powers also they had acquired. Now, yeah, if you see uh, the, the difference between Arjun and all other four, not only the 104, but even the four brothers which were there, was very evident. Arjun was the only really qualified man. And that is the reason why, if you see at Geeta, uh, when the time came for the Lord Krishna to give his discourse, the Gita, what is known today known to all of us as Bhagavad Gita, was given only to Arjun because Arjun was the only person who was qualified. And although others were very well known they were well versed in their particular subject, but as a whole, this Arjun was the only person who was qualified enough to uh, take that knowledge. It was like that same question, which, if you recall, in one of the episodes I mentioned about that little boy who uh, who asked his mother that why is why during the daytime only it is light and at night it becomes dark. I wish uh, it was bright even at night also. Now there are three different. The question remained the same, but answers were different. And for the most advanced student, it was simply that the Earth was expanding. It was not static. So had it been static, it would have been bright both during the day and night. But because it is static, because it's expanding, it is dark both at night as well as day, and you can see the stars. So the answers were different, although the question remained the same. The same thing is here. That's why Arjun was the one who was selected to be imparted with the knowledge of the Gita. Now, here, sorry, sorry. Now, here, all these four people, 104 people, 104 mm, princes, they're all, they were the actors, they were the doers. They're all driven by the ego. Now, what is ego? Where does it come from? If you recall, I had mentioned in one of the episodes earlier that there are two things. One is Purush and the other is Prakriti. One is Purush is the consciousness, cosmic consciousness, and Prakriti is nature. Nature, Prakriti cannot survive by itself. It has to be in association with the Purush, although Purush can survive by itself. Now, when Purush interacts with Prakriti, the Prakriti very quickly uh, generates a form or a tiny speck or a tiny fragment of the Purush, and in that and that form can be of a human being or a animal or a tree or a rock or any what we call any inanimate object, but they are not really inanimate. All of them have got a speck of that Purush in it, because without that Purush, that form will not survive. So that's the difference between what all of us, that's why we worship the trees, the rocks, the rivers, because from our point of view, that they all have got a fragment of the Purush inside, just like all of us. Now, these Purush, the 104 people, princes, for all the doers, they are actually driven by the ego. The ego comes in, is the third factor which is there. But ego is created in the mind because of the vasana. The moment a form is generated, that form is exposed to the nature, and all kinds of things are happening, and that creates an impression in the mind. This mind itself keeps on churning whatever impressions are there. And the mind, in fact, creates all the impressions and what we call the, the tendencies, then it causes desires. The desires, they become habits and character and personality. That's how it's called the ego. But the same thing, those impressions or the vasanas, when they form tendencies and character and tendencies and desires, when these desires are enacted, then these desires leave their mark, and that is the karma. Again, the third thing is that when these tendencies or vasanas are worked upon by the mind, then they create like and dislike, and these likes and dislikes create our identity. This is what is utilized by all the computers, etc., to identify who is there on the other end, who is demanding whatever. So the ego is really a product of the mind itself. It is the mind which keeps on working on its own that it creates the ego. Of course, the input it has to get at a younger age from parents, especially parents and elders, another thing, but that's a different issue. What I wanted to bring out was that ego is entirely a product of the mind, and it has to be controlled by the mind. But who will control the mind? That mind is controlled by the buddhi or the intellect. We utilize our intellect to control the mind. Mind, however, is not easy to control. It keeps on functioning at such a rapid pace, like moving from here to there, that even for the buddhi, sometimes it's very difficult to control. And because the mind keeps on fluctuating from one to the other, and because it is acting from the moment there's an input there, and any action, any response is required from the person, the mind before responding, it just sort of reacts immediately, instantaneously, and vomits out something that creates a problem, and that creates uh, that karma. This That's why it is they all of us. I mean, we are told by all the saints and sages that you have to control your mind. Do not allow it to react instantaneously. And the way to do that is to utilize your buddhi, get it thinking. The moment before it starts reacting, let the buddhi control the mind, and reason why is it required to be done, or what are the other alternatives. So alternatives before the buddhi are two. One is that if you allow before that, if the buddhi allows the mind to operate on its own and does not exercise any control, then every time it will keep on reacting. On the other hand, if the buddhi takes it upon itself to check the mind, then it will not allow it uh, to react very quickly. It will restrain it, and then the response may come either from Prakriti, or it may come from the Purush, which is there in the form of Atma. And that Prakriti response, which is there. Now, you remember, the Prakriti is made of these 5 elements that I told you. But Prakriti also has got 3 qualities. These 3 qualities are Sattvic, Rajas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And it's a combination of these 3 qualities, or three gunas which are there, which distinguishes each person. And when it comes from the responses from Prakriti, when the buddhi, it's like a driver's seat, the mind functions, mind controls the body, but who is controlling the mind? Normally the mind controls itself. When I say itself, it is the ego which is controlling it. And this ego is the cause of all the karma. On the other hand, when the buddhi or the intellect takes over, then it does not allow the mind to free rein. It says no, it should be either by Prakriti or it can be by Purush. The Purush is in the form of Atma, and Prakriti in the form of these gunas. When it is in the form of these gunas, that starts responding. Then it is from what they call our nature. That nature for different persons, for different beings, will be different. So, for example, in case of Kshatriya, The response is that he has to fight. That is his nature. And if he fights, he's going to be, that is a dharmic act. And when it is a response from the nature, then it is like, it is not a dharmic act. It is like a tiger or a lion killing a buffalo or a deer, because that is its nature. It has to kill it in order to eat it. It's not doing anything wrong. But a human being, when it responds from its ego, killing wantonly, unnecessarily, then that is what is harmful. That's what creates the karma, and that's what binds us. When, however, the response is by Prakriti and it is through our nature, then in fact not only binds us, it takes us back, leads us to uh, toward the ourself and freedom or moksha. But the best response can be when the when the response is from the Atma itself. Now, how the Atma does not actually do anything. Atma has got only by itself, and there is nothing else other than the Atma or the soul. And its response is for itself, and that response is in the form of love. That love does not leave any reaction. And love is the language which itself it understands, because the everything here is nothing but the love itself, or the, and the rest are all what they call illusions. So yeah, if you have to, therefore, if we no, the Atma, yeah, sorry, the Atma, as I was mentioning, when it responds not in the form of an action, it responds in the form of a witness. It is there all the time. It is aware of what is happening. And when it responds as a witness, and in the form of love, which also is part of, which is what the Atma comprises of. This is its language, this is its whole being. What is a witness, and how do you become how do you ensure that you can become a witness also? Now, witness means that you don't judge anything. You don't you don't become judgmental. Whenever you act out of the ego, then you are judgmental. Even when you act uh, out of your prakriti, then too you are partially judgmental. Because remember, you've got in the ego, you've got sattva, rajas, and tamas, all three of them. Whereas in the purush, you've got only sattva qualities there. It's all love, nothing else. So no action is there in case of the Atma. It's only witnessing, is just witnessing. What is witnessing? You sit non-judgmental, and whatever happens, let it happen. It is all illusion. It will die of its own. It's not required. It's yeah. After this games are over, then Dronacharya tells them that the time is now come for you to give Gurudakshina. Now, what is Gurudakshina? Gurudakshina, most of our Westerners, when they started translating from Sanskrit to English, like Max Muller and other people of the East India Company, they couldn't figure out what Gurudakshina was. To them, it appeared as if it was some kind of fee which was charged by the Guru for imparting the knowledge. But the Gurus would not be selling their knowledge. So what was done by the Guru was that you specified them, you give me normally a go. Now, a go does not mean a cow. Go meant give me, go meant the scriptures. So he said, demonstrate your knowledge of one of the scriptures which you have learned. Go also means your senses. So, or it meant demonstrate your control of the senses. Essentially, the Gurudakshina, which the Guru used to ask, was of help of use to only the student, not the Guru. Guru did not want anything monetary for himself because he led a life of complete austerity with minimum items which he owned. For his day-to-day needs, he used to go for bhiksha. For his slightly longer needs, the wealthy people would give him dan. Although dan, of course, was not only for him, it was for sharing with others also. But that dan would take care of him. But the Gurudakshina was primarily was kind of a thesis or a treatise, which uh, with these days the graduating student has to submit, so that treatise was of or that would be of use to the student only, not to the guru. If you recall, Guru Dakshina he had asked from Eklavya to give his right hand thumb. That right hand thumb means you remove the guru. You are no longer required to be bound to guru. The guru is binding it down. Remove the guru and set yourself free. Eklavya was a very advanced student and immediately cut off his thumb and gave to him. Another case, in the another case, the uh, the guru asked that student to get him uh, the queen's kundal or earrings and the queen's bangle, golden bangle which he had, the queen's golden bangle. So he goes to the queen, and the queen very says that I have to give my guru. So please give me your golden bangles and golden earring. So the queen gives him the golden bangles and the golden earring. Now, what is the golden bearing? Golden bangles means he will always do the right thing, and golden earring means he has the power to to hear his voice of conscience. The demonstration of these two was required to be shown to the guru. That is the Guru Dakshina. Guru Dakshina therefore means that something which will bring pride to the guru, which will bring pride or fame to the guru, that their students are so advanced. That was the Guru Dakshina. Then in case of this thing, when the Dronacharya had said that this is over, your training is over, the studies are over, it's now time to give the Guru Dakshina. So he called Duryodhan and said, the moment he called Guru Dakshina, Duryodhan said, yes, yes, Gurudev, please specify your Guru Dakshina. I'll fill your bag with gold and silver. Dronacharya immediately told him, gold and silver are of no use to a Brahmin. Times are different. Normally, I would have asked that you go and give me a go, but situation is different. All I want you is to go and fight with King Drupad and bring him back a captive to me. He said, Gurudev, I'll go just now and kill that fellow. He said, no, don't kill him. That is, don't overstep the order. Overstepping of orders is also violation of order. Just go and fight with him, defeat him, bind him, and bring him to me. Well, so immediately Duryodhan left with all his 104 brothers, and they went there, and they had a big fight with Drupad, but Drupad was led by his daughter Shikhandi, who was the head of who was the general of her army, his army. In that fight, they managed to defeat Duryodhan, and Duryodhan, after some time, come back beaten. Then this Dronacharya tells Arjun and the other his four brothers, five of them. He said, now you go and fight with Drupad and bring him captive to me. Arjun, he goes there, he has a fight with Drupad, and Drupad was backed by his army, at the head of a home, of which was his daughter Shikhandi. Arjun managed to beat Shikhandi, and he managed to beat Drupad and his whole army, and he made Drupad captive and brought him uh, to Dronacharya. Now, this also is like everything else, is also a metaphor. Drupad stands for one who thinks that he is the that he is nothing other than the body. He is only the body and nothing other than the body. So and Dronacharya stands for one who is what we might say, who is in dual mode. He knows that he is the body, of course, but he knows there's something other than the body also. So when they have a fight, it is really the victory, or you might say the realization that no, it's not the body alone, but there is this something other than the body, which which is there, even though you may not know what it is. That other than the body is the spirit or God or whatever you call it. Yeah. So this is how they Dronacharya then when he gets Drupad here, he tells Drupad that look, you recall some time ago when I had come to you seeking, uh, uh, telling you of your friendship, reminding you of your friendship. You had told me that friendship can be only among equals. Now that you are my prisoner, all the kingdom, the whole kingdom, your whole kingdom belongs to me. But I want to have you as a friend. So that's what I'm interested, not your kingdom. So what I'll do is I'll keep the northern half with me and southern half, which has your uh, capital Campilia, I'll leave that with you. And the northern half, which is there, I'll take it over from you, so that now we become both equals, and then now you can recognize me as a friend when we next meet. So he therefore called the various priests, and he had his son Ashwathama crowned the king of northern uh, part of his kingdom. Now, well, this satisfied Dronacharya's ego because he had been insulted that time and thrown out from Campilia. It really created a very agonizing situation for uh, from Drupad, who was very angry, although he couldn't do anything, and he swore to take revenge against these two people, against Dronacharya. When he went back to his kingdom now, half, which was only half the kingdom, at Campilia in his capital, he performed a big yajna in consultation with his guru. And there in that yajna, he prayed to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva was very happy with the offerings that were given in the yajna, and he granted him his boon. He said, "I want a son which is very brilliant." So the this Lord Shiva agreed to that. However, before granting him the son, he first gave Drupad a very beautiful but a dark daughter. The dark daughter was born fully, completely, not as a baby, but as a complete young woman. And also, from that same fire emerged a very brilliant young boy or a man. That dark daughter was called Draupadi, also uh, Panchali, because that kingdom was Panchal. And the son was called Drishtadyumna. Drishti- Draupadi stands for daughter of Drupad, and Panchal means one who of five elements. So Drupad was really, he considered himself nothing more than the body. That's why he was that's why it's called Panchal, from five elements. The kingdom was called Campilia. That Campilia is that yellow cloth that is covered, uh, that young woman, when she delivers a child, is covered with the yellow cloth. So that yellow cloth stands for really the sex, or and Draupadi therefore stood for, as per the, she stood for the human being or the person who's there out of that austerities. She emerged out of that fire or the austerities or the which was sacrifices which Drupad had been doing. And from that sacrifice, first emerged Draupadi, who is a human being. And second was the son, which was called Drishtadyum. Drishtadyum means breadth of vision or wealth of vision. So it is the same uh, energy from which these two were created. It is, that same energy, the psychic energy, which lies at the base as a coil at the base of our spine. And this, when it rises up, it first at the sex chakra. When it becomes active, it generates a child. When it passes this sex chakra, rises up, goes to the navel chakra, then the heart chakra, then the throat chakra, and then the forehead chakra. At that place, it gives you vision. So it is the same energy which first grants away, which is first forms, where results in the production of a child. But the same energy also gives you the wealth of vision. And when the same energy it is taken to the Sahasrara, right at the top of our head, the seventh chakra, then you remain in bliss, and that is the eventual goal. Anyway, so the uh, this is the expansion of these various metaphors that is there in these stories. I'll stop here as I planned, and I'm glad I finished in about 40 minutes.